Hi, and welcome to another Seeking Asylum review here at Terribly Fun Films. I'm your host, Bobby, and we are looking at the Asylum's found footage film, The Bell Witch Haunting. Given the setup and pretense for the film, anybody involved is not actually credited within the film itself. So when I discuss the director and the actors, and the editor, and whomever else it may be, you might notice that it all says uncredited when you go look up their filmographies for this film. And that is by design for how the movie got released. So this 2013 film cashed in on the wave of popular found footage films that really started with Blair Witch Project in 1999 and hit a massive boom thanks to the popularity of the paranormal activity films. I think the first one came out in like 2010, was it? Somebody correct me on that, I didn't look it up, but whenever the first one came out. So with an intentional low budget like that even the studios are aping, the big studios are aping, and fairly basic haunted house thriller, can the Asylum still manage to be as fun as they usually are? Let's find out. Stop me if you've heard this one before. A family moves into a new house in a new town. This one happens to be fairly close to family members. And as they are moving in and getting settled in their new life, strange things start happening. Strange occurrences that they can't decide, that they can't really figure out, and that they don't know how to properly deal with until the only explanation left is it must be supernatural, and they try to find a way of fighting that. Yes, I've just described so many haunted house films from Amityville series, and choose one, be it official canonical series or offshoots like the Amityville Playhouse. I just described other Asylum films. Some of my favorite Asylum movies, by the way, like Haunting of Winchester House and that kind of thing. But the question isn't how original was it. The question is, does the movie make it work? The answer is mostly yes. If you're sick of found footage films, if you're tired of that genre, The Bell Witch Haunting offers absolutely nothing new in that regard. A boy gets a video camera for his birthday, so he starts recording everything. School, the rest of his birthday party after he gets the camera, things like that. He and his friend then decide, his cousin specifically, then decide to set up cameras at night all around the house to record the weird things that are going on, to figure out what is actually happening. And so we're intercut with all of these different camera footages. Don't ask me who intercut them, that's not something you ask in movies like this. The Bell Witch itself has a fairly interesting backstory. I don't want to give it away because there are some twists involved, but they make it believable. They make it work in context of why the hauntings are happening and who they're specifically happening to, and that's a good thing. But again, the story is hits every beat and every kind of thing that you can imagine when I say found footage film with this story. So if you're looking for surprises, if you're looking for twists, now there are none. You will probably guess the ending before the hour mark hits. You will definitely guess the why in terms of specifically who the witch is targeting fairly easily. But director Glenn Miller, who you know from Zombies and Coed and Zombie Stoner, does a decent job of at least making your characters interesting. Mostly, I feel the the cousin gets a short end of the stick in that regard. Despite him having ample screen time, he's just their cousin, and he's also into movie making like our main boy is. That's kind of all I know about him. The parents also, you don't get that much to work with, but they're also not nearly as prominent as the main boy and his sister. So that's not that big a deal. Mostly, I think, at just under 90 minutes, the film utilizes its time fairly well. There's a basic setup of birthday party, moving into new house, weird things happening. There's not a ton of setup in that regard. It's just very quick, very happy, and then we get a lot of weird things going on. Sometimes it affects people who are staying over at the house, or sleepovers, parties, that kind of thing. And that does add something to it, because it's not just the family, and they do address it, and they are trying to get things done about it, which makes them smarter than 90% of people in horror films like this. So, we have a brother and sister team, Dana, played by Kat Alter, and Brendan, played by Drew Hellenthal. And we cross-cut between the various footage they are filming, and they are the two most targeted by the witch. Along with their parents, obviously, because it's the house they live in. And Kat Alter does a fairly decent job of making her character interesting, despite the writing having everything to do with trying to make you hate her. She's such an annoying character. She does a sort of fashion vlog thing that doesn't actually serve any purpose. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything. And the way she talks with her friends, everything about her is just a stereotypical teenage female as written by an adult male. She's not that believable in that regard. But Alter does a really good job of making you invested, especially when she becomes the main target of attacks, especially when she's having nightmares and wakes up screaming. She sells that fear really well. For his part, Drew Hellenthal is his character is a little more well-rounded than the sister, and he's also fairly likable despite us not seeing him too often, because he's alone with the camera most of the time. Not the entire time, but most of it. You believe that, he wants to antagonize his sister, but he actually cares about her. He actually wants to investigate what's going on, and he wants to really solve it. That is, he sells that well, and he makes you interested in his discoveries. The parents, played by Ted Jonas and Julie Creevely, I didn't much care for. I don't think they were that good. The line deliveries felt off. They, forced is the wrong word, but almost as if they didn't have time to read the whole script, so every now and again they would just stop whatever it was they were doing, run off of the set, read the script real quick, memorize them, and then just spit them back out, because it was rote memorization as opposed to being something that character they should be inhabiting to say. I feel that's the case for both of them. I think Julia Cleary does a slightly worse job than Jonas, but it's also because she's a bigger presence, so I'm not actually sure if it's fair for me to say that. Playing the Bell Witch, when you finally get to see that entity, is Marissa Lynn Johnson, and she's creepy as fuck. But she does a really good performance in terms of what the character wants, in terms of what the character's motivations are, and in terms of how the character is designed and looks. She does a good job at selling that creepiness, and that would be the kind of entity that would totally creep people out. So good on her for that. Cast of people I have not mentioned: Colby, the cousin, or the priest who eventually gets called in to maybe exorcise the house and exorcise, not exercise. You hear that shit? To see if that'll help with the hauntings and that sort of thing, are okay. The priest doesn't get a lot of screen time, and his character is fairly every exorcism priest you've ever seen in a movie. But he looks authoritative enough, and he's believable saying some of these biblical epic lines that accompany exorcisms. There's an officer who is intercut throughout the film. I don't want to spoil why, but Officer Bungalon. Bungalon. What a weird name, right? Played by Jason Kakabine, and I actually like him quite a bit. He reacts in a very believable manner throughout the course of the film, and that makes him a very engaging character to keep up with and see what's going on in that regard. I know it's a found footage film, but it does have editing because we're going across a bunch of different cameras all at one time without thinking too much about it, without asking who's editing this footage, especially if you see at the end, and how the footage got released. The editing is fine. They intentionally leave a few hiccups in there to make it seem like we're editing over old tapes and old videos, which is a really nice touch. Because not all the cameras are new; they're not meant to be. The cousin gets a used camera because he really wants to help with this craziness. So leaving those touches in makes it feel more real, and that's in and of itself an impressive thing. I know this is a short review, but there's really just not a lot to be said for this film. It is a found footage horror film about a family that moves into a new house and gets haunted. You already know if you like it, before I had to say anything. You already know this movie is for you. Period. If you don't like found footage films, don't watch it. If you're sick and tired of the family and new house being haunted stuff, don't watch it. But if you like found footage films, if you like hearing about new legends, even ones made up for movies, and you like backstories and that sort of thing for the hauntings that happen in movies like this, check it out. The Bell Witch is an interesting, creepy entity, and I think the movie does a good job of getting that across. So yeah, I enjoyed the film. It's as average gets, though, for found footage horror films of this ilk. So if it sounds like your cup of tea, definitely check it out. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.